Game Theory Class 6, Video 1. In this video we're going to introduce different types of games. What I mean by this is there's a method by which games are sort of sub-classified into smaller families. And the idea behind this is when mathematicians or economists want to study game theory, there are a lot of different games. There's too many different games to study them all at the same time sometimes. So instead you group them all into like sub-families of games. Like how it's too difficult to study all animals at the same time. Instead, you study like mammals or reptiles or birds or something like this. This is the same thing here. I'm just going to classify games into some sub-families. And these sub-families are important because they're the object of a lot of study. The first type of game I want to talk about is called a coordination game. And I'll get to the definition right now. So, definition: a coordination game is a game with multiple Nash equilibrium. It's a really simple abstract definition, right? It's abstract in the sense that it doesn't really give you much of a qualitative feel for what's going on, but this is the definition. So the only requirement to be a coordination game is to have multiple Nash equilibrium. And the idea behind this is, if you think about Nash equilibrium as a place where you can get stuck, like they're not necessarily the best outcome like we mentioned before, but they're a place where you can get stuck. Well, if you have multiple of them, maybe it's in your best interest to coordinate with your opponent so that you get stuck in the best one. That's the general idea, right? It's not always as simple as this, but that's the general idea. Trying to coordinate which Nash equilibrium you get stuck in. The important fact about coordination games is there are 3 subtypes of coordination game. Okay, so within all games, there's a family called coordination games, and within this family, I can subdivide it further into 3 subtypes. And we're going to look at these subtypes right now. So the first subtype is called pure coordination. And this is the easiest type of coordination game. So a coordination game where the goals of both players are directly aligned. Okay, this is the important bit. The goals of both players are directly aligned. This is a pure coordination. I.e., I could paraphrase this by saying the outcome considered best by one player is also considered best by the other player. So if we think about some examples for this, well, one example could be the stag hunt, which we mentioned the other day. So if this is hunter 2, this is hunter 1, stag hare, 2 2 0 1 1 0 1 1. This is, if you remember, called the stag hunt game. Well, if you think about it, there's 2 Nash equilibrium in this game. There's this one here and this one here. These are 2 Nash equilibrium, and it's a pure coordination game because the best outcome for player 1 is this here. 2 is the highest number, and the best outcome for player 2 is also here. And the important fact is they happen at the same time. So it's in both parties' interest to coordinate, and there's no conflict going on. They both want the same thing. They both want stag. I can do another example. Maybe the country road example. So if you remember, there are 2 cars going head on towards each other, and they're going to swerve either left or right. Okay, If they both swerve left, they avoid each other. If they both swerve right, they avoid each other. But if one of them swerves left and the other one swerves right, they crash. And crashing is represented by -99, -99. Okay. So again, in this game, there are two Nash equilibrium. The red boxes. Maybe I should actually say this. These are the Nash equilibrium. Right? There's two, which is more than one, which means it's a coordination game. And it's a pure coordination game because the best outcome for car 1 is a 0 and the best outcome for car 2 is a 0, and they happen at the same time. Okay, so both cars have a strong incentive to coordinate and get a mutually beneficial outcome. Okay, if you remember, this is called Country Road. So this is pure coordination. Let's move on to the next type of coordination, which is called bias coordination. So bias coordination is a coordination game where the goals of both players are partially aligned. So in the previous one, both players, their goals were directly 100% aligned. It benefited them both mutually equally to coordinate. But now there's situations where maybe both players benefit from coordinating, but the benefit is not equal. So this causes conflict. The most famous example of this is probably Battle of the Sexes. So let me think about how to draw this. Like this. Battle of the Sexes, you have person 2 and person 1. And then there was boxing and dancing. Boxing and dancing. And there's 42000024. So this is Battle of the Sexes version 1, if you recall. Okay. So Battle of the Sexes version 1. And it's got two Nash equilibrium. Right there. Okay. And it benefits both players, both people, to coordinate, but there's a conflict because, for example, this one here benefits person 1 more than it benefits person 2, whereas this one here benefits person 2 more than it benefits person 1. So now they don't have as pure an incentive to purely coordinate. There's a conflict of interest going on. So this is Battle of the Sexes version 1. Also, Battle of the Sexes version 2 is also a bias coordination game. Okay, let's look at the last type of coordination game. This one is called an anti-coordination game. So a anti-coordination game is a coordination game where the goals of both players are in direct conflict. So they sort of want to anti-coordinate. You might think it's weird including this in a coordination game, but that's just the way it is. Okay, so I can do an example. Something like the Cold War is probably a good anti-coordination game. So country 2, country 1, and then I had War and Peace, I think. Okay, and remember, war was a very bad outcome. War Peace saw the warring side gain resources and the peaceful side lose them, symmetrically for Peace War. And Peace saw nothing change at all. So to begin, I need to identify the Nash equilibrium, right? And if you're not used to this, you should practice doing this. So to find the Nash equilibrium in this game, it will be this one here and this one here. These are the Nash equilibrium. Okay. And notice how they are sort of like completely in conflict. This one here benefits player 2, country 2, and it detriments country 1. Whereas the other one, this one here, benefits country 1 and it detriments country 2. So there's sort of like a strong incentive to anti-coordinate. They don't want the same thing out of this. Okay? So this is a classic example of an anti-coordination game. And that's the 3 types of coordination game. That's the end of this video.